I'm going to demonstrate how to make a gray, like the idea of making a gray from complements. And this is the definition of a complement could be thought of as two colors that make gray. Right? You could think about a complement as two colors opposite the color wheel, or you can think about a complement as two colors that, when mixed and white is added to them, produce gray. So to start with, I'm going to choose purple and yellow as my complement. So I'm going to grab some quinacridone red, and I'm going to grab some phthalo blue here. So I have quinacridone red, phthalo blue, and some kind of a Benz yellow. And so first I'm going to make a purple. So I'm pretty sure that phthalo blue packs a pretty big punch compared to quinacridone, which means I don't need that much to find some kind of middle ground of purple. So that's looking pretty good to my eye. So I want to kind of slow down here and appreciate the alchemy of what's happening. So this is an opportunity in life to watch two things interact with each other, two subjects, and push on each other back and forth and mix and become something else. And this is like, if you let it, a very alchemical feeling. So that looks like a nice dark purple. So I've got my purple and I have my yellow. And one of my favorite ways of mixing gray is with yellow and purple. I love watching yellow go into purple. I also love watching red go into green, especially in this kind of neutralizing of a primary or of a secondary to produce a gray, a desaturated, muted energy, right? So I'm just gonna take this moment to watch what happens when I push yellow into purple, and watch these tones mix, these ideas, these ways of being come together into something else. So now that's looking pretty brown, and that might be because I'm heavy on my red and yellow. And so one of the other things I want to suggest to think about is that often when you add another color to one color, you start to see things about the previous color that you didn't notice at first. So it kind of brings other things to light, especially white, especially with modern paints. When you add white, it does these surprising things with quinacridone or phthalo. So let's go ahead and add white to this patch of paint and see what it does. First, I'm going to make a swath here. And so one way to make a swatch is with the side of the palette knife. And that just allows for a lot of clarity compared to the expressive potential of the brush, right? So that's like a nice solid swatch I just made on my paper. So then I'm going to add a little bit of white to this. And it's very red. So now it becomes this kind of seesaw, this wonderful seesaw where my purple was so red that when I mixed my complement in, my gray, right, this is going to be my gray, I'll add more white. And as I add white, I can see more about what that dark was. So that purple, it feels pretty red to me. So I'm going to bring it towards blue. Now that I've highlighted it with white, right, I'll add blue. And that's quite blue, but to me that feels more like a middle of my quinacridone and my phthalo, right? I'm just trying to find the best middle secondary for my set of primaries, for my gamut that I've chosen, right? And I guess it's worth it now to mention that now modern theory uses cyan, right? If you buy printer ink, you get cyan and magenta, and K, you'll get black. So now I have this purple. Now I'm going to kind of antidote it, neutralize it with more yellow, and see if I can't arrive at neutral gray as possible. And again, slow down and watch that color change by its complement. Watch it be neutralized towards its complement, desaturated. So you can desaturate towards a complement, you can desaturate towards a dark, towards a black, towards a white. I think that's often not mentioned, is that desaturation occurs in a direction. It's a vector situation. So that's a pretty good gray. Now let's see, it's a little bit eggplant-like, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a swath of it. It's very rich. It has a lot of life to it. In order to really know what it is, I need to add some more white to it. But I would say it still needs to be desaturated by its complement. Now that's looking pretty neutral. Go ahead and throw that up here. So it's still warm. It's like it's in the red terrain. I'm gonna add more white to it. And then remember, we learned that if you take a pile of paint, you split half of it to one side, and then you take the other half, and you affect that, and that way you have a control variable to see how it's changed. Yeah, so I think it's still on the magenta side, so I'm going to bring in a little bit more phthalo. And then I'm going to pick up some of that extra thing I made because I put too much phthalo down. Phthalo can be pervasive. That's pretty good right there. I might cut that in half, add white to it. And I think about this a lot like yoga, actually, where like if you're gonna do a pose, like a pigeon pose, if you just arrive at that pose immediately, you might not get as much out of it as if you come into it in a way. And I think arriving at gray is similar. I think about it in a very meditative way, I guess. I guess it's worth it to talk about convenience colors. You know, if you're gonna go paint something that's green, you don't necessarily need to make green on your own. You can just buy a green. And the conceit that red, yellow, and blue make all colors is not true, right? Red, yellow, and blue are only going to desaturate from there towards your secondaries, etc. So that's a solid gray right there. So that is how you make gray from complements. So these are these different swatches, and this is the most recent. It could even get more yellow in it. It's at a really nice tipping place. But through this process, you learn to see how many other colors are kind of latent in your grays. Yeah.